Hey everybody, Felix Staffelbaker here. I wanted to make this video because this is an article everybody should read by Nick Carter, and it's called "The Operation Chokepoint 2.0 is underway and crypto is in the crosshairs." I just want to read a little bit of it. What began as a trickle is now a flood. The U.S. government is using the banking sector to organize a sophisticated, widespread crackdown against the crypto industry. And the administration's efforts are no secret. They're expressed plainly in memos, regulatory guidance, and blog posts. However, the breadth of this plan, spanning virtually every financial regulator, as well as its highly coordinated nature, has even the most steely-eyed crypto veterans nervous that the crypto businesses might end up completely unbanked, stablecoins may be stranded and unable to manage flows in and out of crypto, and exchanges might be shut off from the banking system entirely. For crypto firms, obtaining access to the onshore banking system has always been a challenge. Even today, crypto startups struggle mightily to get banks, and only a handful of boutiques serve them. This is why stablecoins like Tether found profound popularity early on to facilitate fiat settlement where the rails of traditional banking were unavailable. However, in recent weeks, the intensity of efforts to ring-fence the entire crypto space and isolate it from the traditional banking system has ratcheted up. Significantly, specifically, the Biden administration is now executing what appears to be a coordinated attack that spans multiple agencies to discourage banks from dealing with crypto firms. It applies to both traditional banks who would serve crypto clients and crypto-first firms aiming to get bank charters. It includes the administration itself, influential members of Congress, the Fed, the FDIC, the OCC, and the DOJ. Here's a recap of notable events concerning banks' establishment in recent weeks. On December 6th, Elizabeth Warren, John Kennedy, and Roger Marshall sent a letter to crypto-friendly bank Silvergate scolding them providing services to FTX and Alameda Research, and lambasting them for failing to report suspicious activities associated with them. On December 7th, Signature Bank, among the most active banks serving crypto clients, announced its intent to halve deposits ascribed to crypto clients. In other words, they'll give customers their money back and then shut down their account, drawing its crypto deposit from $23 billion at the peak to $10 billion, and to exit its stablecoin business. On January 3rd, the Fed, the FDIC, and the OCC released a joint statement on the risks of banks engaging with crypto, not explicitly banning banks' ability to hold crypto or deal with crypto clients, but strongly discouraging them to do so on a safety and soundness basis. On January 9th, Metropolitan Commercial Bank, one of the few banks that serve crypto clients, announced a total shutdown of its crypto asset-related vertical. On January 9th, Silvergate stocks fall from a low of $11.50 on a bank run and insolvency fears, having traded as high as $160 in March of 2022. On January 21st, Binance announces that due to policy at Signature Bank, they will only process user fiat transactions worth more than $100,000. On January 27th, the Federal Reserve denies crypto bank Custodia's 2-year application to become a member of the Federal Reserve System, citing safety and soundness risks. And that one's a huge one because that was what Caitlin Long was doing, and it was the only bank in the whole country that was going to use 108% of reserves and not fractionally reserve bank things out, and it was going to be totally solvent, and they couldn't have that. On January 27th, the Kansas City Fed branch denies Custodia's application for a master account, which would have given the ability to use wholesale payment services and hold reserves with the Fed directly. On January 27th, the Fed also issues a policy statement which discourages banks from holding crypto assets and broadens their authority to cover non-FDIC insured state charter banks. A reaction to Wyoming special purpose depository institutions like Custodia, which can hold crypto alongside fiat for its banking customers, which is also weird because it was like a weekend and they never come out and make statements like that, especially when they're not working. So there's something severely going on here. On January 27th, the National Economic Council releases a policy statement not explicitly banning banks from serving crypto clients, but strongly discouraging banks from transacting with crypto assets directly or maintaining exposure to crypto depositors. On February 2nd, the DOJ's fraud unit announces an investigation into Silverbank over their dealings with FTX and Alameda. On February 6th, Binance suspends USD bank transfers for retail clients. Binance US was not affected. On February 7th, the January 27th Fed statement is entered into the Federal Register, turning the policy statement into a final rule with no congressional review or public notice and comment period. As February 8th, Protego and Paxos applications to follow Anchorage and obtain full approval to become national trust banks are still outstanding. They appear likely to be immediately denied by the OCC. In some, banks are taking deposits from crypto clients, issuing stablecoins, engaging in crypto custody, or seeking to hold crypto as principal, having faced nothing short of an onslaught from regulators in recent weeks. Time and time again, using the expression safety and soundness, that they've made it clear that for a bank, touching public blockchains in any way is considered unacceptably risky. While neither the Fed, FDIC, OCC statement nor the NEC statement a few weeks later explicitly banned banks from servicing crypto clients, the writing is on the wall, and the investigations into Silvergate are a strong deterrent to any bank considering aligning itself with crypto. What is clear now is that issuing stablecoins or transacting on public blockchains where they could circulate freely like cash is highly discouraged or effectively prohibited. It is equally evident that a bank-issued fiat token would only be acceptable to regulators if it were domiciled on a surveilled private blockchain. No unhosted wallets allowed. And perhaps the most damagingly, the Fed's devastating denial of Wyoming's SPDI bank, Custodia, as well as their policy statement, effectively ends any hopes of a state-chartered crypto bank might get access to the Federal Reserve System without submitting to FDIC oversight. Why might crypto entrepreneurs be wary of the FDIC? It tracks back to Operation Chokepoint, where in some crypto space believe that recent attempts to ring-fence the entire industry and cut off collective banking are reminiscent of this little-known Obama-era program. Beginning in 2013, Chokepoint was a scheme sought to marginalize specific industries operating legally, not through lawmaking, but by applying pressure via the banking sector. The Obama DOJ had already cut its teeth with its successful effort to sideline the online poker space in 2011 and 2012. With threats issued to banks supporting poker companies. With Chokepoint, the department decided to scale up its efforts and to target other industries, starting with uncontroversial targets like PayPal lenders. Then the DOJ coordinated with the FDIC and OCC to pressure member banks to redline, determine as too risky to do business with, certain legal but politically disfavored sectors, chief among them firearms manufacturers and adult entertainment. Banks and payment processors internalized this guidance, and even after the program was formally shuttered by Trump in 2017, its shadow lingered. Today, banks simply ascribe a higher risk to activities that they may suspect might draw the government's ire, even if no specific guidance exists. Since Chokepoint nominally ended its financial rails as an extrajudicial political cudgel has only become more popular. Under pressure, a number of banks walked away from the Dakota Access Pipeline in 2017. In 2018, Bank of America and Citigroup deplatformed firearms companies, and Bank of America began to report client firearm purchases to the federal government. In 2019, AOC announced her intent to marginalize private prisons through her seat in the House Financial Services Committee. Financial regulators are being asked to advocate progressive causes. In 2021, the Democrat House passed the Federal Reserve Racial and Economic Equity Act, which would have required the Fed to aim to eliminate disparities across racial and ethnic groups with respect to unemployment, employment, income, wealth, and access to affordable credit. Gensler's SEC now maintains a controversial climate agenda, as does the Fed. Kamala Harris has deputized banks to advance a racial equity agenda, effectively imposing uneven demographic standards for credit provision. Today, it's even commonplace for explicitly conservative organizations like Gab or Parler, the various malcontents and dissidents who fall afoul of regime politics, to find themselves deplatformed from banks, fintech, and payment processors that they rely on to do business. For those who support this, I would invite you to imagine what a financial inclusion or exclusion under a similarly zealous DeSantis administration might look like. Just build your own bank, right? Well, not if the Fed has anything to say about it, as evident with the stillborn Wyoming SPDI. The crypto industry tried that path and was utterly stymied. Banks are highly regulated public-private partnerships in an environment where new charters are excruciatingly hard to obtain, and as such remain de facto arms of the state. It has been and remains trivial to deputize them to carry out political objectives. If there's any doubt, now look the evidence that the Obama administration and its successor in Biden's regime are comfortable circumventing the First Amendment by engaging nominally private companies to do their dirty work. Anyone paying remote attention would have noticed the oddly close revolving door between monopolistic big tech firms and Obama-Biden's security state officials. Ever since Elon Musk leaked the Twitter files, it's nakedly clear that the U.S. government and its security apparatuses use proxies at Twitter for overt censorship and narrative control. Twitter is just a private company, though, right? In 2017, Trump and lawmakers like Rep. Lukenmeyer were able to put a stop to chokepoint for a time, but it didn't last. One of the first moves from Biden's OCC was to undo Brian Brooks' unfair access rule that prohibited political discrimination in banking. Biden's deputies picked up where Obama's regulators left off, and now, the time it took to digest Biden's executive order, regulators are tightening the screw. Today, the outlook for banks remotely interested in crypto is precarious. Banks tell me that crypto is toxic and the risks of engaging with the asset class are not worth it. In the wake of the Custodia decision, obtaining a new charter for a crypto bank looks extremely unlikely. Banking innovations at the state level, like Wyoming's SPDI for crypto banks, appear dead in the water. Federal charters for crypto firms with the OCC also dead in the water. Traders, liquid funds, and businesses with crypto working capital are nervously examining their stablecoin portfolios and fiat access points, wondering if banks' connectivity might be severed with little notice. Privately, entrepreneurs and CEOs in crypto tell me that they sense a regulatory noose tightening. As crypto-facing banks de-risk, younger and smaller firms will struggle to get banking, taking us back to the 2014-2016 period when fiat access for crypto businesses was at an extreme premium. Exchanges and other businesses that rely on fiat on-ramps are concentrated that their few remaining bank partners will shut them off or institute draconian standards for scrutiny. As a venture capitalist operating at the early stage, I am directly witnessing the chilling effects of this policy in action. Founders are reckoning with the new uncertainties around whether they'll be able to operate their businesses at all. So why push the banking regulators now? The FTX collapse and its ensuing effects, particularly on Silvergate, provides much of the answer. Financial regulators weren't interested in FTX while the fraud was underway, with the exception of the SEC and its chairman Gensler, who oddly had close ties to the organization. But ever since the exchange failed in spectacular fashion, they are now contemplating ways to avoid the next such collapse. FTX is an offshore exchange that was not directly supervised by financial regulators, aside from FTX US, which had a marginal stub, so it was outside of their direct egress. However, regulators believe that they might have a silver bullet in the fiat and on and off ramps which the industry relies. If they can choke off fiat access, they can marginalize the industry on and offshore without regulating it directly. Some key respects, Crypto Chokepoint 2.0 differs from the original. It appears that the administration has learned from the efforts of its predecessor, in Chokepoint 1.0. Guidance was mainly informal and involved backdoor, off-the-record conversations. Its main tool was the threat of investigation from DOJ and the FDIC if financial institutions didn't internalize the administration's risk standards. Because this was patently unconstitutional, it gave Republicans the collateral to ultimately repeal the program. In 2.0, everything is happening in plain sight in the form of rulemaking, written guidance, and blogs. The current crypto crackdown is being sold as a safety and soundness issue for banks and not merely a reputational risk issue. Jake Chernovsky of the Blockchain Association calls it regulation by blog posts. No need to ask Congress for new laws if federal regulators can simply make policy, and in this case of the Fed, grow their scope and mandate by publishing guidance which dissuades banks from doing business with crypto. Custodia's Caitlin Long calls the Fed's denial of her application shooting the stallion to scatter the herd. As the consequence, the only banks willing to touch crypto at this point are smaller, less risk-averse ones, the ones with more to gain from banking the industry. However, this means that crypto deposits and flows end up being substantial relative to their core business, which introduces concentration risks. Banks prefer not have access exposure to a single counterparty or a depositor base that is highly correlated in its flows. Silvergate felt this acutely with the bank run it suffered and survived post-FTX. While it's impressive that they were able to honor a 70% drawdown in their depository base, that episode will dissuade any banks looking to serve crypto clients that might face the same. And practically speaking, labeling crypto-facing banks high risk has 4 direct effects. It gives them a higher premium with the FDIC. They face a lower cap rate with the Fed, which inhibits their ability to overdraw. They face restrictions on other business activities, and management risks a poor examination score with their regulatory supervisors, which inhibits their ability to do M&A. So while some analysts like Wilson Sonesi, Jesse Chang have pointed out, somewhat optimistically, that banks are not explicitly barred from providing crypto custody or onboarding crypto clients, they still stand to get labeled high risk and face serious business hurdles as a result. Some might be sympathetic to regulators' attempts to insulate the banking system from the vicissitudes of the crypto space, but thus far, various disasters haven't produced any meaningful contagion. The industry had a full-blown credit crisis in 2022 with virtually every major lender going bankrupt, but the damage was contained. The worst fallout was in the banking space was suffered by Silvergate, which suffered $8 billion in drawdown. No onshore fiat-backed stablecoin suffered any meaningful adverse effects, despite the massive crypto sell-off in 2021 and 2022. They functioned as intended, and no contagion spilled into the traditional finance via mass selling of treasuries, something officials have historically felt be a key transmission channel. As Biden enters the second half of his term, his crackdown on crypto banks have deflated hopes for a regulatory rapprochement in the U.S. Many bank crypto entrepreneurs now tell me that they're waiting for the 2025 and the putative DeSantis regime for the things to turn. Some can't wait that long and are shuttering their plans for businesses which involve any type of regulatory approval, especially with regards to bank charters. Regulators are effectively picking winners, with larger, more established crypto firms able to hang on to their bank relationships while newer ones are shut out. Meanwhile, other jurisdictions are making a bid for their business. Hong Kong has adopted a friendlier tone once again, and has the UK, the UAE, and the Saudis are looking to attract crypto firms. The U.S. regulators can scarcely afford to forget what happened with FTX, in which they curtailed the business activities on onshore exchanges, effectively pushing U.S. individuals into the waiting